Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, senior editor behind BehindTheSteelCurtain.com with you for another episode of the Steelers Preview. Welcome to the Steelers Can't Lose week, and that means that the Steelers are on a bye. And so that's exciting for a lot of reasons. My heart is going to be taking it easy this weekend, but we still have a lot of stuff to discuss and talk about here on this podcast. And the trio is with us. Bryan Anthony Davis, what's going on?
The very first time I ever wrote for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I was in Elkins, West Virginia, and I was writing a column called the Steel Deal, and my little face was in the corner, and I was all proud of this. It was a small town newspaper, and it was 2003, and the Steelers were having a rough week. I mean, rough year, actually. That's how they got Big Ben. And so what I did, I said, look, if the Steelers lose this week, I will run down the main street absolutely stark raving naked with nothing but a terrible towel. I was a lot thinner then, so it was okay. But it was the bye week, so nobody can get me.
Dave Schofield, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Should I sit here and wait 15 seconds to answer like you do when you start the show? Everyone's
honestly,
complaining.
I wait until on my computer when I don't start until I see the clock starting, and that's when it started on my computer.
So, my clock was going for 12 seconds before you started.
Your clock was wrong.
Everyone's like, Jeff, what are you waiting for?
Oh my gosh, it's 12 seconds, people. Give me a break.
Hey, people,
I'm gonna wait for 30 next time.
Then we pause for 8 seconds between shows. The 12 is pushing
humanity.
it.
The humanity.
The humanity. Hey, it's the bye week. It should be the fun week. I mean, who knows where the players are right now? They're probably scattered about. Hopefully, they're just enjoying some rest. Unfortunately, we aren't resting. We're still here for you all, but hopefully maybe we can just have a good time as well.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I have a question that goes back to last week because I was not on the post game. Bryan wasn't on the post game, other responsibilities and duties. But still, Bryan, we did the post game by ourselves last week after the Denver game.
Yes.
And I got to ask, did you watch the Seattle game shirtless?
No, I was clothed during that game. And well,
dang it, you screwed up the superstition. Like, I'm like, all right, Bryan's going to watch it.
Bryan, it's all on you.
Well, I was a guest, and my very good friend, a guy that my kids call Uncle Mike and Aunt Cheryl, I was at their house, and I don't think that they would have enjoyed me being shirtless, greasing up their couch.
All right, so it's shirtless when you're at home. We can maybe go with that one. Well, because where you watch matters. Where you watch definitely matters.
Oh, I know. I sit in the same spot when I go there. I sit in the same spot when I'm at my house. I sit in the same spot every single time now. It was just like I showered right before that game. And I came out in a towel. I grabbed my pants. So I didn't watch it in a towel.
I
the
mean,
BJ Finney pants.
You know what? The BJ Finney pants aren't working. Old bad, spent a little too much time on the couch over 2021. So we got to get in shape to get back in the Finnies. Because remember, he wore a size 38.
Man.
Well,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that was like when they kicked her around the world when you wore the Finney pants and your Mike Mitchell jersey.
Oh, you're killing me. Are you actually going to do that to Joe Hayden? You're actually going to say that about a Joe Hayden jersey and compare it to a Mike Mitchell? Oh, be still my beating heart.
Mike Mitchell. Okay, folks, you haven't figured it out yet. It's the bye week. We're going to have some fun on this show.
Yes, we are.
If you're sitting here like, I can't wait to hear some X's and O's Steelers, then we'll just see you next week as we get ready for the Browns. We're going to have some fun on this show. So lighten up a little bit. We can all use a little bit of laughter. Quick question. Let's start it off this way. It's the bye week. What do you do during the bye week? Like, do you sit down and watch a lot of TV, football? Do you not watch football? Like, what is your bye week routine if you have one? Dave, we'll start with you.
You mean on Sunday during game day?
Okay. Sunday, yes.
I was going to say, because everyone's talking to me like, oh, I hope you're really enjoying some time off on the bye week. I'm like, it's more work because I'm not writing injury report articles. I'm not writing the odds articles. I'm like, yeah, but yet we still have everything out there. So it's more work for them to be on bye. Me, it's very simple. I will be sitting on my couch. I will be turning on. I know Jeff hates it, but I absolutely love it. And so does, well, I got my dad hooked on this now. I will sit down and I will turn on the Red Zone channel.
Oh, barf.
And I will turn on the Red Zone channel. And then my wife will ask me to do something. And I'll say, hold on, honey, I'll get it next commercial. And then sometime around 7:45, I'll reemerge from my spot on the couch in order to, and I got to watch it downstairs because it's fantastic. I even have it set up to where the TV is specifically positioned that it is visible from the bathroom. It is the only place in my house. So I literally do not have to take my eyes off the television for through all those games. I will watch all of them. That's just what I'll do because the Steelers aren't playing.
Yeah, but the poor family, they walk through, you're on the throne. They have to see
I don't have to leave the door open about that much, about a couple inches. And it's good.
Brian, what are you doing this Sunday on the bye week?
Every bye week since 1990, but they used to have 2 bye weeks when they first started out. Like in 1990, teams in the NFL, they had 2 a season. And I get depressed during the bye week when the Steelers aren't playing. I hate it. I know that they need it, but for me, I mean, no Steelers. It's just like, I feel like they've been relegated, and I just hate it that week when there's no Steeler action. I'm going to spend more time with family, and I'll watch football. And kind of what I do now when the Steelers aren't on now, if they're playing at 1:00 and it's 4:00, I have Red Zone on, or I have NFL Network, Direct TV on my phone, and I kind of watch it so they can do everything else, and I could watch and pay attention to football that way.
Yeah, I love the bye week. I probably won't watch any football, to be complete. If I'm being completely honest, there's just a lot of stuff that I got to get done. I know my parents are coming into town this weekend. I'm going to be golfing a couple times. So for me, I'll check out the highlights. I'll watch Chris Berman at the end of the night on ESPN Plus, and I'll get caught up and I'll check my FanDuel, but that's about it. So, but still, yeah, it's day. Everyone has their own. For me, it's the one time I don't have to write like seemingly 20 articles during a game. So I just take it easy.
But take the BTSC hat off for a second.
Yeah.
Let's go back 6 years ago when you weren't doing that. If you weren't doing this 6 years ago, which you were, it was 2015, right. You were. But let's go back in time when you didn't have the responsibilities that you have now, and you were a fan.
My fandom has changed a lot since having kids. Now that we have 5 kids, like I just don't have a lot of time for anything anymore. So I look at the weekend, that's a chance for me to do stuff with them, whether it's I take my kids golfing, whether it's to go for a long walk, go for a hike, do stuff around the house that I've been putting off because the Steelers take up one whole day. That's what I do. But then you say go back 7 years, I would have sat down and just bounced around games because I always had Sunday ticket. I would have been like, okay, Bengals and Ravens.
How is it different than the Red Zone?
Because I'm choosing what I'm watching. Like, I don't want to be sent to the Atlanta-Miami game as Atlanta's getting ready to kick a field goal. I could care less. I'd rather watch the in-between parts of the Ravens and Bengals than I would that game. Well, and they'll do that. I've watched the Red Zone. I just hate it. I can't stand it.
Well, here's what's interesting, because I grew up, my dad, we had 4 TV channels. That's all we had. We had an antenna. You didn't have a remote. But we would be told to switch the channel. My dad would constantly be watching more than one thing at a time, even when you had to manually turn a knob to change the channel. And it seemed like he was always missing the best parts of everything. Always. Always. If he was trying to watch 2 football games, we were always missing the scores and seeing maybe a highlight or a commercial. And that's why I'm like, Dad, as much as you got it wrong, this is your chance that you don't have to worry about it. They'll get it right for you, and you'll get to see how the scoring plays. It's funny that you said that, though, Jeff, about how it's changed in that direction since you had kids. To me, it's changed in the opposite direction. Because when I had kids was when I stopped coaching. And when I was coaching, I was so into my own coaching, especially that time of year football, that the Steelers were more of an afterthought behind that. It's not that I wouldn't watch the games or pay attention to see if they won, but I didn't get to where I didn't miss a play until after I stopped coaching. And that was more, I needed my football fix since I couldn't actually be out there on the field coaching it.
Yeah, I get it. And like I said, there's no right or wrong here. I mean, people like to watch football. Hey, that's fine. Go watch your football. But let me ask you all this.
Go
ahead, Brian.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I used to be a college football. I mean, I would know everything about college football, and I would love it. I traded in my Saturdays for Sundays. When I had a family, I'm like, all right, Sunday's is Steeler day. Now I get to say, hey, I got to go to work. And I slop down on the couch and watch the Steelers. I'm at work, you know?
Yeah.
But I know hardly anything about college football right now. I mean, just the basics from highlights, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you all this question. We'll start here. What would be some tips for the Steeler fans? So the title is a guide to getting through the Steelers bye week blues. So you're talking to a fan, they're depressed. Brian said, I get depressed when there's no Steelers. So what are we going to tell them? Like what Brian, what's something you do that, hey, here's something you can do to get you through it?
I could start off with a Dave answer that you're going to love the Dave answer that I'm going to give you. And I think Dave would have probably come up with this. So I'm going to try this one. Go to BTSC radio and download all these podcasts and check them out.
BTSC radio is our YouTube channel. Go to the Behind the Steel Curtain platform podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I call it both.
Send them to the right spot.
Okay, go to the platform. Yeah, shut up, Jeff. So now you know what I would. If you're missing the Steelers and if you're not going to go check out our podcast and everything, you know, I used to do this on bye weeks with my buddies way before the whole BTSC thing. Sometimes we would have the DVDs that would come out with the full Super Bowls, and we would watch an old Super Bowl or watch an old game. Something like that, but I'm not going to do that because like I said, I'm going to spend time with family and I'll have stuff on in the background and I'll enjoy it. But you know, the best thing to get through this bye week is what happened last Sunday night. The fact that they won that football game will keep you going through this bye week, and keep checking in. I mean, keep checking in with BTSC on the editorial side, and keep checking in because there's so much stuff to give you Steeler content. And you know what I mean? I threw a plug in for us, but you know, you could have fun watching other games knowing that you're not nervous that they're going to lose, but it's not the same. So do whatever makes you happy, but know that as soon as Sunday ends, this is the best part. As soon as Sunday ends, it's the start of a new week for the Steelers.
Yeah. So Brian, real quick though, because you brought up the DVD thing. Like I have the complete history of the Steelers, which was done before Super Bowl 40. Like that's a great watch if you've never watched those. Yep. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube now. I have the Band of Brothers thing from Super Bowl 40, the DVD after Super Bowl 40. Those are great. Or if you catch America's Game on the NFL Network. But you watch old games. You watch old games. Where do you see those? So in case someone's like, I would love to go back and watch that one game, like, Ben's first start in Miami during a hurricane in 2004 in Miami. Like, I would love to watch that game again. Where do you go to find those?
I go to type in McMillan and Wife Steelers, and it's McMillanandWife.com. Now, be careful because McMillan and Wife was a show with Rock Hudson from the 70s. It was I don't know whether he was a cop, and I don't know what the show was about. But so type in McMillan and Wife Steelers, and you'll go to this site where it's not a pay site. It's nothing. The guy just does it for the love of Steelers and puts these old games on there. And they are absolutely fantastic. And if you have one from a VHS that laying around and they have a list of games that they want, but the man has so many games on here, and I'll just type in, like, I was thinking, man, I want to watch Terry Bradshaw's last game. I've done it. And so this is how, when we started the retro show, Jeff, I was basically going from my memory and then looking at the box scores and looking at old articles about it. Now, Tony and I watch the game every single week in the off season when we do the show, and we watch the game. And when we're finished watching the game, we have our notes and we talk about it. And it's so fun to relive it. We did a game last year, actually in March, we did a game from 1988, a horrible season for the Steelers. They were 5-11, but it was late in the year, and they beat the Houston Oilers on Sunday Night Football. And it was fantastic to watch that game, see Louis Lips go crazy and Rod Woodson go nuts, and that entire game. So it's fantastic.
That's good stuff. And so that's something you could do. Dave, what do you think about beating the bye week blues?
I think Brian hit on the main thing, is that's why that victory going into the bye week, especially for the fan base, means so much of how you go into the bye. So that's key. Honestly, to me, it's going to feel like the Steelers play on Monday night. And then when I get to Monday night, it's going to feel like the Steelers played the day before. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't really like Sundays when it's not the Steelers playing, knowing that they played Thursday or will play Sunday. Well, now when they play on Thursday, it's a little, if it's a win, it's a little bit easier to get through Sunday. But that's mainly what I do. I have to just try to mentally tell myself how things are, and I don't know. You keep me busy enough writing stuff for the site, so I guess I'm all right.
No, that's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. And like I said, anyone, that just do something that you are find relaxing. Some people just love to watch football, and you can have a stress-free Sunday. That's also good, because we know the Steelers are always stressful. So let me ask you guys a question. Go.
I was going to ask one thing. What's the best thing that you've ever specifically planned for a Steelers bye week that you can remember?
Just trips. I remember.
I went to Disney World. The only time I went in the fall was during the Steelers bye week.
We went to Williamsburg, to Busch Gardens in the fall one year, and it was like, when do we want to go? And I said, hold on, let me look at the Steelers schedule. Oh, they're bye week. Let's go then.
My wife's getting a bum. She's like, it's the bye week, and we don't have anything special planned. I'm like, I told you, do whatever.
Brian, what about you?
Same thing. I would do a vacation. It was just like, hey, this is family weekend, no game. And we do the same type of thing when they're on Monday Night Football as well. Like Dave mentioned, hey, it's the free weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you all a question about the Steelers. They're in the bye week. I want you all to think about something that they could fix within a week. And what do you think that is something they could actually fix? So when we see them in week 8, it's actually going to look different from this bye week. Dave, what do you think? Anything come to mind?
Something they could fix during the bye week.
So people say you got to create more turnovers.
This is something that you implement during the bye week
that they could actually do.
Something that they could, or something that I think they actually will.
No, could. What's something you think they need to that they could? So there's people that always put these lofty goals, they need to start taking the ball more. Well, that's great, but that's not done in a week. Go ahead, Dave.
This is gonna be. They got to make a decision what they're going to. They got to make a decision what they got to do at tackle.
Is that what you're going to say, Brian?
No.
Good.
Oh,
no.
So I thought he was going to say. I thought he was going to say play harder
and start working. Yeah, play hard. Okay. Which is funny, because listening to your Let's Ride, you basically had an equivalent at one time this week. That was almost like saying, "Oh, you just got to give maximum effort." That means play hard.
I did not
Jeff.
say maximum effort.
I can't remember what it is. I go back and listen and quote it to you. But you said something, because I thought to myself, he's just saying play hard. That's what he's saying without saying the words play hard. Okay. No. So I would say, trying to figure out, because if let's say you're going to move Chooks from the right to the left, the bye week is the time to make sure he's got that down. I don't know that that's what they're going to do. If Zach Banner's coming in to play right tackle, the bye week is the time to get him ready to do that. If Dan Moore Jr. is going to be, coming out of the starting lineup, which I'm not sure that, like I said, I don't know that this is what they're going to do. I mean, I'm okay if they just keep stuff the way they are, with Banner ready to go for the first time somebody doesn't do something right. They need to figure out what they're going to do and start getting everybody. Those guys should know that right now. They should know what the plan is for next Sunday at offensive tackle and who's going to be doing what right now, because they should be mentally getting themselves, making sure they know exactly what's happening when they get back to practice next week.
Brian, what do you have in mind?
This is an emphasis on tackling. Is something that you can definitely throw in. So when Dave said figure out tackle, I'm like, he took my, and then he said tackle position. I'm like, I kept it. Figure out tackling. I mean, that doesn't mean that you're going to go ahead and instantly become tackling machines again, but put an emphasis on it and just say, guys, we need to clean this part up. It's like, it's kind of like when Mickey told Rocky in Rocky 2, we need a greasy, fast Italian something, and brought the chicken out. I think maybe they bring out the chicken and try to tackle the chicken.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. So Connor Eddy gave us a $1.99 tip. Thank you very much. He said Ben is 12th in passing yards. I did not know that Ben was 12th in passing yards. That's off the top of my head. I didn't. Does he finish in the top 8? This is a good question. Dave, what do you think?
I want to say no, because I'm banking on the Steelers performing well in the second half. And the Steelers, when the Steelers are playing better, Ben doesn't have to throw the ball for as many yards. It's that simple. Look at the playoffs. When Ben goes over 300 yards, the Steelers lose. When he doesn't, they win.
Yeah.
Because what they're having to try to do, whether they're in the game or not. So I'm not wanting Ben to have to throw the ball over the field.
Bryan?
My answer was very similar to Dave's, but mine was, I hope not. Now, where I want to see Ben finish well is in touchdown passes. I'd rather see touchdown to interception ratio be fantastic. That's what I'd look at here, because when you're throwing yards when you're throwing everything and not running the football in the third and fourth quarter, you're losing, like Dave said. And so you're playing catch up, and that's how you get a lot of quarterbacks pad their stats by throwing for a lot of yards in the third and fourth quarter, because they don't have a chance to win, but they're trying. The key is to get that running game going. And the reason I said I hope not is because if that running game's going, you can go ahead and be in the 260, 280 range comfortably and keep on winning a lot.
You gonna say something, Dave?
No, I have a question after you answer this one, because I know
I think he will be in the top 8. I think they're going to have to throw the ball in some of these games in the latter half to maybe get back in it, to maybe extend a lead. It's going to be tight. I don't think they're going to ignore the pass. I wish they would just be more balanced, but I just don't think it's in the cards. I think he'll be close to the top 8. Dave, what's your question?
My question is, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers going into this bye and you're looking for things to fix, are you looking strictly at the last game, or are you looking through the first 6?
I look at all 6,
okay,
personally.
Because prime example, we said, the tackling. Do you realize in week 5 against the Broncos, they only had 3 missed tackles?
Where do you get missed tackle?
They're not official. I brought this up Tuesday night on Scobro Show, so people are like, what?
Right. But where do you find that number, though?
I'm getting this number. You can find it on PFR. I was pulling it from PFF, Pro Football Focus, on where if I just bring up the game and I just click on defensive grades and sort by missed tackles. And like they had 14, according to PFF, against Seattle. They had 3 against Denver. So that was really bad against Seattle, but it wasn't a problem up until last week. You know what I'm saying? So you have to ask yourself, was that a new trend, or was that just an exception to the rule? I don't know.
It could be.
What do you think, Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, it could be an anomaly. When it's fresh in your mind, that's what's going to stick out. And that's probably a quick turnaround. I mean, if you want to improve the offensive line, you're not going to do it over a bye week.
No. So speaking of Ben Roethlisberger, another question I had for you all. Do you think that so far through 6 games, what we've seen from Ben Roethlisberger, is that the best that we're going to see from Ben Roethlisberger? Have we seen the pinnacle of Big Ben in 2021? Bryan, we'll start with you.
No, I don't think you have. I don't think you've seen the best. I don't think you've seen the worst of Ben.
Oh, that was my answer too.
Oh, don't say that. God. He's been awful at games, in some games.
No, but I'm just not saying that the worst is coming. What I'm saying is that Ben's. Sometimes I'm hard on Ben, and other times I'll make excuses. And I think the way that offensive line was missing blocks, not getting a running game going, hindered Ben's performance. And I know he should be able to take over, but when they're in your face that quick, when you don't have a running game to rely on and they could key on the pass. Dave's talked about this a lot, saying, hey, man, we don't think you're going to beat us with a pass, so we'll just line up against a run. Ben has been at a disadvantage. When the team around him gets better, you're going to see better Ben. And I think, and remember, we say this a lot, you can't spell better without BTR, and it's coming. You're going to see a very good Ben in the next 11 games. It's not going to be perfect, but because the offensive line is going to improve, and Najee is going to give him some relief.
Dave, what do you think about that?
I think you can see a better version of Ben Roethlisberger to come, but I was going to bring up what Bryan said. I think you're still due for a game or two where you're just like, oh my goodness, what is this? Hopefully it's not much, but it's just the nature of the NFL. You're going to come out. I mean, individual players are going to have rough games, if you know what I mean. It just happens, especially when someone's 39. I mean, I know you're saying that's like, well, it's Tom Brady. Yeah, if you really look through, it just isn't in a lot of key moments that even someone like that, you can just say, oh, wow, this was just not a good week for him. But the reason I think you could see more from Ben Roethlisberger is he's starting to have some confidence in his offensive line. He's starting to get some better, needing to get on the same page more with his receivers. As that continues to grow, you're just going to see a better product offensively for the Steelers. And that's going to be because and therefore you're going to think that, hey, that's Ben doing what he needs to do because he's the guy that touches the ball every play.
Yeah, for real. I like that. Hey, quick question, yes or no? Right now where we sit at the bye week, do you consider the Steelers contenders in the AFC, Bryan?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
Dave, what about you? I'm going to come back to you, Bryan.
Well, because you got to have that definition of contenders.
You think they win a Super Bowl? Do you think they are a Super Bowl contender right now? Like they can win it all?
So you're saying Super Bowl contender?
Yeah, I changed it.
Okay, so you changed it. For Super Bowl contender, I'm going to say at this moment, I'm going to say no. But if you're talking about a playoff contender, and we all know all it takes is getting there, then you can, or then all you got to do is get hot at the right time. Then you're the Super Bowl contender. They are definitely a playoff contender because I was kind of mad because I didn't have this right on StatGeek because I was going off Yahoo's standings because it was the app I had on my phone, and they had the Steelers 10th in the AFC. Well, they didn't have the right tiebreaker putting them at 10th. Technically, the right tiebreaker puts them in 7th. And that means if the playoffs would have started before this game kicked off tonight, the Steelers would have been in the postseason. So they're right there in contention for the playoffs. And all you have to do is get to the right point to where you're playing well. I don't care if the Steelers are playing great right now. I want them to be good enough to get to the postseason and be playing great in January. That's what I want.
Bryan, since I amended my question to Super Bowl contender, do you change your answer?
I copy and paste Dave Schofield.
Okay, now, follow-up question before we go to our first break. What would it take, in your opinion, for you to change your tune on the Super Bowl contender talk? Meaning, what would the Steelers have to do for you to say this team could win it all? Because I think none of us are thinking that right now. Yes, playoffs possibility. Super Bowl, I don't know. What would it take? Bryan, we'll start with you.
Sweep Baltimore, sweep Cleveland, and, well, I mean, it's hard to say sweep Cleveland and Baltimore because that's week 17 and 18, but beat the Titans, beat the Chiefs, beat teams like that, and get like a 5 or 6 game winning streak. They have a 2-game winning streak now. Say they throw in 5 or 6 more wins. All right. Then you're looking at a team at 9-3, and you're like, oh, this is definitely a Super Bowl contender. And I could go back in time to 1995 when this team was 3-4 after a loss on Thursday Night Football to the Cincinnati Bengals. They did not look like a Super Bowl contender. They lost Rod Woodson for what seemed to be the rest of the year. They were kind of a mess. They were 3-4. Nothing looked right. And then they went on a 7 or 8 game winning streak. and they ended up that season 11-5, and the only loss was a loss to Green Bay, which they did not need to win. They needed it more for seeding, and that was like 2 days before Christmas, and that's the game where Yancey Thigpen knocked it with his knee out of his hands, or they had that game won too. So with that being said, yeah, you could say that this team would be a Super Bowl contender if they go on a run.
Dave, what do you think?
As much as I like Brian's answer when it comes down to wins and losses, there are some fluky things that can have you lose games that you shouldn't and win games that you shouldn't, if you know what I'm saying. So, for example, it was the topic of the show on the Scobro show. People that wanted to just say, well, this win against Seattle means nothing because it took them to overtime to beat a team without Russell Wilson. You know what? It doesn't matter. They got to win. They're not giving it back, just like the Ravens didn't give back the one against Detroit or the one against who else was it? Kansas City, or the one against
the Colts.
There's the Colts. There you go. They're not giving theirs back either. But what you almost have to do is I like what Brian's saying, but you got to find the way to win those ugly games when you're not playing well, and you've got to find a way to just get on a roll. I really liked what you said in yesterday's what's your show called? Let's Ride. That riding show. Anyway, where you said, do the Steelers have any one thing that's really like I almost thought of it as like puts fear in their opponent? What are the other teams really scared of with the Steelers? Do they really excel at one thing? And the answer is they don't right now. And the thing is, they could still get. So I think they either need to get really good at one or two things, or they just need to be so good at everything that you can't say, oh, well, if Ben's if they're going to be so great at throwing short passes, we're just going to shut them down, because we saw what happened with that last year.
Okay, we're going to take a break. And when we come back in part two, we're going to talk about what Dave was just talking about. What can the Steelers maybe do better coming out of the bye week and maybe make it their calling card? We'll be right back after this break. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to part two of the Steelers preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, senior editor behind thesteelcurtain.com, joined by Dave Schofield, Bryan Anthony Davis. If you listen to part one, then you know the question what Dave was talking about is, what can the Steelers calling card be moving forward? Because they have none. They don't do anything exceptionally well. Bryan, I'm going to ask you first. What could the Steelers do offensively and defensively to say, this is what we're going to hang our hat on? I talked about it on my Let's Ride, but I'm curious what you think. Go ahead, Bryan.
Run the football, stop the run. I think that could be their signature. And if you hear that noise in the background, I've got a 15-year-old dog that won't come up the steps now without crying, so I apologize. Harvey's old.
I was gonna say, Bryan, you need to silence your wiener.
I've been saying that. Everybody's been telling me that my whole life.
So, same. I assume I'm answering the same question.
Yes, you are.
I like Brian's answer. If there's one thing that I want them, I want to pick two, both dealing with offense.
Then go with two.
Then it's all about getting positive yardage on first down and converting third downs. And I think the thing that makes it easier to convert third downs is getting that positive yardage on first down. If you're that team that they're just like, oh, they can run it, oh, they can pass it, they can throw it short, they can throw it deep, they can do all these things, as long as you're converting, that's what it really comes down to. So the thing that's scary, I don't want to see the Steelers constantly like, okay, first down, they lost 2 yards. Second down, it's incomplete. Then it's 3rd and 12, and you got to, throw up a ball and get a conversion. You want to see them that you can chew up chew up the yards and the clock, completely down the field. And it's not like you're so fragile that one penalty kills your drive. You know what I'm saying? That you're that team that you're just going to chew up yards. You're going to get positive yards on first down. You're going to convert your third downs. And you're like, Presley Harvin never has to come on the field except to hold for Chris Boswell.
Which would be nice. So I agree with both what Brian said and Dave, what you said as well. I want to kind of switch gears here a little bit. Like I said before we went on the show, it's going to be a bunch of random stuff. So, Dave, you wrote this article for Behind the Steel Curtain, and it was about James Washington and the comments by Ike Hilliard. And Ike Hilliard, I said in our Slack channel, he was a good soldier. He fell on the sword. He took the blame for James Washington only having one catch against the Seahawks on Sunday night. I'm not buying what he's selling. I'm not buying what Mike Tomlin is selling either, that it was based on matchups. What? Get out of here. Tell me in what world Ray McLeod is a better matchup against anyone over a second-round pick. I think if they would have said he's still a little banged up, groin's still bothering him, I'd be like, hey, I get that. Now that I buy. You buying what he's selling, Dave? You wrote the article.
I'm not really. Well, let's just say this. I'm not buying what Tomlin's selling. I'll tell you that it was just, it's just the matchups and that was it. I'm not buying that at all. But what I'm kind of buying what Coach Hilliard was saying, because it was something that I speculated in the first place, is I'm like, I said to my brother, was there a chance that the Steelers were so concerned that they weren't going to have either Washington or Claypool, that they were just hoping to have one of them? And therefore, they needed to have everyone else ready to do the other things. And they were basically saying, hey, if we have one of them, we'll be in good shape because they'll be able to do this job. And then next thing you know, you have both of them with everything else. My thing is, I'm trying to look up something. I'm trying to see, based on everything, does James Washington even fit playing in the slot? Because I know that's what some people say. He played 13 snaps out of how many snaps did he have total? I think he had maybe 53 snaps in the game. He played in the slot. But otherwise, the question was it going to be – they said, well, James Washington was the backup to Chase Claypool, and Ray was the backup to Juju. And with Washington being so, not available because of injury throughout the week, we never really got him up to speed. But my question was it more about James Washington needing to go play that role, or are they going to transition Chase Claypool into that role? And between making sure Washington was good with what he was doing, which wouldn't have been as much, was it more about transitioning Claypool to be the guy that's going to be more of the Juju role? I'm not sure, but it seemed like with two guys injured and needing to switch a lot of stuff around, it might not have been the best week to switch a lot of stuff around.
I agree. Brian, what do you think?
I think it was really a lot of malarkey, and I'm not talking about legendary Steeler tight end Mike Malarkey. What I'm saying here is this explanation was awful, and I really don't think I agree with everything that Dave said, but I don't think they're making him a priority this year. I think he was lost in the shuffle, and now that Juju's gone, they're like, oh, we've got to put James in there, and they don't have a plan for him. And that's it. So if they're saying the matchups, no, it's just we have not prepared ourselves to need James Washington.
Yeah, I'm not. Like I said, I'm not buying it.
Yep. Sorry, I just thought I'd say something. I just saw a replay on my phone, and Von Miller's knee's not supposed to bend that way.
Oh,
yeah, he's walking off very gingerly, but it didn't look pretty.
Oh,
10-0 Brownies at this point in the show as we're doing this live. Let's do some rankings, shall we? I want to hear what you think about some stuff that's Steeler related. Brian just brought up Mike Malarkey. He said legendary tight end, also offensive coordinator Mike Malarkey. Rank the offensive coordinators, the following offensive coordinators from your favorite, meaning their on-field production. We're not talking Todd Haley at Tequila Cowboy, but your favorite on-field production. We're talking Mike Malarkey, Ken Wisenhunt, Bruce Arians, Todd Haley, and Randy Fichtner. And we're going to leave Canada out of this because he's only had 6 games. So who would be your least favorite of that group? Brian, we'll start with you.
Can I have those names again?
Mike Malarkey, Ken Wisenhunt, Bruce Arians, Todd Haley, and Randy Fichtner. I believe those are the last 5 offensive coordinators. Not counting Matt Canada.
So I'm unequivocally going to say number 5 is Randy Fichtner.
Shortest tenure, by the way, I believe.
Yeah, I'm going to say that he was the worst of them all. If I'm going to say number 1 for me,
you didn't ask for number 1 yet.
Not yet. I wanted Dave's.
He asked for number 5.
So I was just going to skip the middle there. And,
no.
So number
4. He just went your number 5.
Number 5.
Just number 5, Brian.
Dave, who's your least favorite?
Is there any question that it's Fichtner? And what's sad is I thought Fichtner was a good idea when they hired him, because I thought if this is Ben's guy, Ben's going to do what Ben wants to do. They'll work together. They'll get it all figured out. And you know what? I'm like, boy, I was just as wrong with that as well, because I thought that had a chance to really do something special, and it was anything but. So yeah, Randy Land is a
Randy Land. No. Okay, so now I want to kind of go to the favorite, and so let's get out of the middle. And which of the following 4, Malarkey, Wisenhunt, Arians, and Haley, which was your favorite offense out of those? Brian, we'll start with you.
It is definitely for me Wisenhunt by a nose. And the reason being is there were a lot of shenanigans in that offense. There was a lot of let's see what Antoine Randall can do. And my gosh, it happened in the Super Bowl. You know, there was a lot of excitement and fun stuff with that. Now, so Wisenhunt is the guy for me. I thought Arians was great too. I really was. I really thought that. Malarkey, I liked a lot of the stuff with Malarkey, and I don't think Haley was really as bad as everybody thought. What got in Haley's way was arguing with Ben, and it became a peeing match. And you know what? That I will not forgive. We talk about all the time. What's the famous phrase? I know your nephew Kyle loves this phrase. Jesse James caught that football. But guess what? Because of they're not talking to each other, if those guys are, instead of watching the scoreboard separately and not talking to each other, if Todd Haley and Ben Roethlisberger are talking to each other, they might come up with something better than that horrible interception that Ben threw. It was a peeing contest the entire year. They weren't even standing near each other. So that was a problem.
Okay, trivia time for me. That interception that he threw, who was the targeted receiver, Brian?
Was it Hayward Bay?
It was not. Dave, do you know?
I'm trying to remember what interception. Which one?
The interception after the Jesse James. So Jesse James was really down.
Yeah, no, that was top. Was it?
No,
I know this. Wrong. I know this. Oh, because I could see him right there.
No longer on the team.
I know
that matters, but he's not on the team.
Because I was almost going to say it was COVID. No, it was Eli Rogers.
Very good. Ding, 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 ding.
Because I remember the number, and I'm like, come on, go through it. Yeah, so it was Eli Rogers.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, who's your favorite offensive coordinator?
All right, I'm going with my favorite offensive coordinator is the one with the smallest butt. Okay, because all of these, yeah, you're gonna love this. Go with the smallest butt, and this is what I mean. Because you could say something like, for example, Bruce Arians was a great offensive coordinator, and they did all kinds of great stuff, but he got Ben killed all the time because he had to hold the ball so long. Todd Haley was a great offensive coordinator, but he just couldn't get along with Ben Roethlisberger. So it's the one with the smallest butt, and to me, Brian is right, and it's Ken Wisenhunt, because he was, in line he was right there through Cowher. It was everything with everyone thought Russ Grimm was going to be the head coach. Well, first was it Wisenhunt or Grimm, and then it wasn't going to be Wisenhunt. So he goes to Arizona, and then it's going to be so it's Grimm, and then all of a sudden this other guy comes into the picture, and then that's when they hired Tomlin. Grimm goes to Arizona, never sniffs being a head coach anywhere ever again, and then the Steelers played against Whisenhunt there. I thought he did a great job in Pittsburgh, and he didn't, let's just say, because of the way he left, it's not like, oh man, they have to get rid of this guy. That's a big difference there. And now I can't remember how Malarkey left, and that's why I'm not even addressing him.
I believe he went to Buffalo.
Yeah.
I think he got hired
as the head coach.
Yeah. So he was another one. He would I would say has the next smallest butt, if you know what I mean. So
okay, can I jump in real quick since this is a bye week and I could probably go off on a little tangent on something Dave said. I ran into a healthcare professional about 3-4 weeks ago in the town that we all live in that is a family member of Russ, and said that when I mentioned that what I do for Behind the Steel Curtain, she's like, yeah, I don't have much for the Steelers anymore, because she claims that they called him the day before and said, it's yours. We'll let you can tell family, and then we'll talk about it later. Tomorrow we'll probably announce it. And then they came up with the Tomlin thing. That's what is being claimed from them. I don't know for a fact, but that was an interesting story that I just heard.
Did him dirty. I'm going to go with Haley in this one, based on the fact that it was exciting. Sometimes it was tumultuous, but it was exciting. They put up a lot of points in that offense. And I second would be Whisenhunt because of the trickeration that you brought up, Brian. I loved how he would throw trick plays. I've been calling for more trick plays. They just never happened. Okay, next question. Favorite non-Bradshaw Roethlisberger Steelers quarterback? And this could be backups as well. So who's your favorite Steelers quarterback that's not Bradshaw? And it could be for any reason. Dave, I'm going to start with you this time.
Okay. I'm honestly, and yet it's going to be because you liked him more for something else. But I'm probably going to go with Cordell Stewart.
Oh, Slash. Now there's a difference. Is it Slash or is it Cordell? Because Slash was
Slash.
special.
It's Slash. Just
Slash
because
was special.
things was so special because, when he was out there, he was still bringing that quarterback element of it so much when he was slashing it up. So it just made it fun and exciting to watch. And then therefore I wanted to see him succeed as a quarterback, because even when he was playing receiver, I always thought of him as a quarterback.
Slash was the best. And I'll never forget my dad's best friend that he worked with named his dog Slash. And then he just hated it after Cordell became the quarterback, and then just sucked.
No, just maybe after Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. I named my dog Kutch, and then Andrew McCutcheon doesn't even play for the Pirates anymore. So there you go. Shame on me for naming him after a Pirate, but they were really good back then. Brian, what about your favorite non-Bradshaw or Ben quarterback?
Walter. Bubby entertained me.
Oh my gosh.
There were some days with Bubby. Yeah. Now, because he was a starter, I didn't want to go with a backup. But if I do go with a backup, I would go with one that would surprise everyone.
Let's do backups separate.
Okay.
We'll
Jeff, you only have one answer, or I'm walking off of this.
What are you talking about? I only have one answer.
You have one answer, and for your favorite non-Bradshaw Roethlisberger quarterback.
Why?
If you get it wrong, I'm done.
Why?
Just go. Give your answer.
If you think I'm saying Neil O'Donnell, that's Brian's thing.
That's Brian's answer. That's what I expected from Brian.
I'm going to say maybe this isn't the answer you expected. There was something magical about Tommy Maddox that I loved.
Oh,
I would have said Tommy. I have no problem with that.
What did you expect?
2 words, Jeff.
Huh?
Mr. Shiner. That's your answer.
Dick Shiner. He was great. He's legend in his own mind. But
no, in your mind.
I also that's true. But I will say this: that I wasn't alive for Dick Shiner. Yeah. Tommy Maddox
was I.
The Tommy Gunn era. I was early college. And I don't know what it was that captured me about that guy and that offense with Plexico Burress. And it was probably so much about the venue, too. I used to go to a fraternity brother's house. His mom was an insane Steeler fan. She would listen to Myron Cope and Bill Hillgrove on her headset, and she would sit like this, and it would be ahead of the TV. And so all of a sudden, if something happened, we would yell at her if she kind of did anything. So if something happened, she'd go, oh, oh, oh. and like this with her ears, and we knew something was going to happen. That was the Tommy Gunn. Those were the Tommy Gunn years. I'll never forget the tie against Atlanta with Michael Vick at Heinz Field. Like that was incredible. And the fact that Plexico caught that Hail Mary pass and just the ball wasn't in the end zone. It was just there was that game, the Cleveland, the 2002 wild card game in Cleveland with Chris Fumatu Mafala with the draw play. Those were some magical seasons for me. Now it all ended poorly in 2003. Don't get me wrong, but the Tommy Gunn era, this guy came out of nowhere. He was an insurance salesman and he unseats Cordell Stewart. And I don't know. It was magical. I don't know. That's just my, sorry, I didn't say Dick Shiner.
I was going to say that was crazy.
If we're doing running backs, you know who I'm taking.
Well, there you go. Yep. Yep. So, I'm trying, you said something in there that triggered a memory and now it's gone. It was a great question for you, but now I don't remember what it was.
Was it the Atlanta game?
No, it was something. It was something I think before that. So,
all right.
Never mind. It's all
so,
right.
well, let's go into the backup quarterbacks. Who's your favorite backup quarterback? And let's say that it had to be someone that's actually led the Steelers to a win. So we'll throw in that caveat. Now, most of them have. I don't know. Here's a question. No one's going to say this guy. Did Bryan St. Pierre ever lead the Steelers to a win? I don't think he ever started a game.
Yeah, I think. Well, no, I don't think he started, but he ended the game when Ben got hurt. I believe. He got hurt in the season finale against Buffalo, or they pulled Ben out against Buffalo, and where Willie Parker went nuts, James Harrison went nuts in the game. I think he played, but I don't think he gets credit for the win.
Okay. Anyways,
whoa. No, Bryan St. Pierre, you've got to look at these stats for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He appeared in one game.
Is that
he
it?
Had one passing attempt, which fell incomplete, and so he has a rating of a 39.6. Okay.
So.
Is that his PFF score?
Yeah, he does have one. No, I didn't look at PFF. It's PFR. He does have one career start in his one game in 2010 for the Carolina Panthers. He is 0-1.
So does that make him, for the Steelers, Archie Moonlight Graham?
Yeah, there you go.
Moonlight Graham. What's this guy's deal? He winked at me. Don't wink at me, kid. Okay. Favorite backup. Sorry, that's one of my favorite movies. Favorite backup quarterback, Steelers. Dave, go.
It's everybody's favorite. It's Charlie Batch.
Okay, no, well, it's like let's do Super Tecmo Bowl. We used to have the no Niners rule back when I played Super Tech. We couldn't be the Niners; they were too good. Be someone else. So we'll do the no Batch rule, other than Charlie Batch.
No Batch rule. Oh my goodness! Now I got to think of.
Well, Brian is. Go ahead and go. Dave,
go ahead, Brian. I'll come back because I love them on the same level.
I wasn't taking Charlie Batch. I was going with Mike Tomczak. He was one of my favorite backup quarterbacks for that team, and he would come in a good bit and really do some positive things. I remember that 94 season where he had to come in and win a few games in the middle, like against the Raiders, I believe, and the Dolphins. I mean, he was pretty good.
All right, Dave, you think one yet?
It's funny because you say they had to have won a game. So I'm worried that I'm thinking of someone that actually didn't win a game.
Do you want me to say mine?
Yeah, say yours because I have one because I'm looking up to see if he won a game and he didn't. So
I'm thinking of the Roethlisberger era predominantly. I've always liked Dennis Dixon.
I was going to say
Dennis Dixon was the quarterback. Remember he won that game, I believe, in Tennessee. And I think he might have led him to victory over Atlanta as well. That was that 4-game stretch when Ben was suspended. But that was Batch and Dixon, wasn't it, Brian?
He started the opener against Atlanta.
Yeah. And I know he got hurt during that stretch. But I always like Dennis Dixon. He was talented. Dave?
See, I was going to go think a little bit outside the box and still go to the Ben Roethlisberger area and go with Byron Leftwich because I like, just that he was there. I love him as a coach.
Yeah.
But the problem is he didn't win a game. He didn't win a game.
Devlin
so therefore, no. What's that?
Devlin Duck Hodges, he won games.
Oh no. Then you've got to go with the greatest backup in Steelers history outside of Charlie Batch, which is one Landry Jones.
You mean Landry Jones, the one that got the win against Cleveland where he got injured on the first series?
How brilliant is that as a backup quarterback? You come in and you start in place of Ben Roethlisberger, and you go up. Was it the first drive? It was the first quarter. Was it the first drive? I even think it was the first drive. I can't remember. And goes down. Ben comes in, wins the game. There's a career victory for one Landry Jones. But
There you go.
Thing about Landry is he could come in off the bench and be awesome. But when he started, look out.
Well, wait a second. Landry Jones came off the bench one time that I can remember and was awesome. And that was when they beat the Arizona Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Other than that, when did he ever
sister
come in
was at that game.
I think another come in and light the board on fire.
I think another time he came in and he started. I'm sorry, he started the game against Cleveland in week 7.
I got another one. I was there. That when Antonio Brown set the world ablaze with, well, not literally, did a really good job receiving the football. I should say it that way, against the Raiders at Heinz Field.
Oh, that's
Landry
right.
had to come in at the end of that game, it was like, oh my goodness, it's time. They're good. After all this, they're going to lose. And he hits AB on a short pass, and he breaks for a long way.
Yeah.
So, and they kick the field goal to win.
All right. Well, we're getting down to crunch time. Dave, you have trivia. Brian, do you have trivia tonight?
I do not.
I have a trivia, and I love this trivia, and you're going to love it when you hear the answer, but I hope the question makes sense. You're going to be like, oh, Dave, what are you doing? But the Steelers are a team that we talk about a lot of different things with them, and they have different streaks. Last year they had the big winning streak, and then they had the sack streak and everything else. There was another streak that the Steelers had that they ended last season on. Their last 6 games of 2020, they had another streak going on. Now, when they started this season, they broke that streak in week 1, but they've been on the same streak ever since. So they had a 6-game streak of this last year to finish the season, and they are currently on a 5-game streak of the same thing right now. Any idea what streak I'm talking about?
Well, I was going to think the turnover streak, but that was longer than 6 games. That was a lot longer than 6 games. Brian, any guesses?
It wasn't. It's not going to be the scoring in the first quarter. I mean, not scoring in the first drive. So no, I don't have any ideas.
This is the bye week, guys. You got to think outside the box. And I can even give you a hint. They technically now have, even though it's only been 5 games, it's now a streak of 6.
They haven't won a coin toss since week 1.
They haven't won a coin toss,
and that includes overtime.
Football Reference, they didn't win the coin toss starting with the Washington game last year, the game which is their first loss. They did not win a coin toss from that point to the end of the season. So look at what the Steelers have done recently when they've won the coin toss. It's insane. They won the coin toss against Buffalo, beat Buffalo. Every time they won it in 2020, I got to go back and see how many times that was. They won all those games because it was during the win streak. So that coin toss is kind of meaning something for the Steelers.
Yeah. Remember when they used to win the toss and say we want the ball to get a lead? That was fun.
And now you're like, let them win the toss so they can defer. Please. But if they're going to waste that opening drive. So,
all right, let's do some final thoughts on this bye week podcast. Brian, go ahead.
I hate the bye week, but I know how valuable it is. And we talked about, having fun and enjoying what you do. When you, I'm all choked up because I'm really thinking about how much I love Bubby Brister. But with that being said, you're almost through it. You are almost through it. But stick with us here at BTSC as we help you get through it.
Dave, go ahead. Final thoughts, and we'll get the super chat up here.
My final thoughts are: we didn't like where the bye week stood when we got the schedule, meaning us fans, us BTSCers.
Okay,
Kyle. That we didn't like that where it fell. It actually now seems like this is a good time. This is a good time with maybe getting back some, Zach Banners, Anthony McFarland's, who knows when the process will ever get started with Stephon Tuitt. People keep asking, we don't know, and nobody is saying. Okay. But with some guys, especially all these groin injuries, it's a good time for all of this to come together and just take advantage. You want the Steelers to take advantage of this and get healed up and come back and hit the ground running after getting 2 wins. I mean, to me, it's just building more anticipation for when they finally get to take the field again.
There you go. Thanks, Mean Joe gave us $5. Thanks, Mean Joe. He said, who's your favorite running back not named Harris, Bettis, or Bell? I know mine. I'm going to say mine first. I've said it a million times. I feel like the 1994 season was a season that really captured me as a Steeler fan. I was 11 years old. I would watch the games with my dad, but it was the 94 season that I was like hooked, like hook, line, and sinker. And it was Barry Foster. Number 29. I wore 29 in middle school in 7th grade. I remember when I played football. I loved Barry Foster. He wasn't there in 95. Everyone forgets that he had a heck of a season. Also a ton of touches, by the way. Look up those numbers. That's insane. But that's mine. Brian, what about you?
Well, no, I know you wore 29 for Chidi Awoma. But I'm going to actually speak for another BTSCer because we share this because we're the same age. Tony Defio and I will both say Frank Pollard. I loved watching Frank Pollard. So when you love the 1994 season, I love the 1984 season. Yeah, and I get it. And I was 12, and it was a special season. It really was. This was a 9-7 team that was the youngest team one of the youngest teams in the league, and they looked horrible at times, and they looked brilliant at times. They had that game when they beat San Francisco, but they had that game when they beat Denver in the playoffs and went to the AFC Championship game. And the guy that keep going back to that was so good that never had 1,000 yards. One time he had 993, and it was Frank Pollard. And that guy was just one of the best for that team that you just don't know that much about. And here's a guy that in 1976 won a state championship for his track team in Texas on his own.
There you go. Little known fact. Good answer. Dave, what about you about the running back?
What was the question? Okay,
favorite running back not named Bettis or what was the other one?
Bettis, Harris, or
not
Bell.
named Harris, Bettis, or Bell.
Okay, I assume they mean both Harrises.
Yeah,
I'm going to surprise. Honorable mention has to go out to Fast Billy Parker just for what he did in that
FWP.
But really, if I want to go back, I want to go back to like my high school days and everything, and thinking there was just something you had to love about one Bam Morris.
The drugs.
I mean, it was only 2 seasons. It was only 2 seasons when he was with Pittsburgh, but when he was there and when he was playing, it was just the time of my life and everything. I guess he was really having the time of his life. That was just something that was kind of while it lasted.
There you go. All right, folks. Thanks for the question, and we'll see you all next week as we actually preview a game. Thanks for hanging with us on this weird and random show. Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hey.
We'll see you next week. Take it easy.